Welcome back to the channel. It's another one in our Good to Great series, and in this one we're looking at Spirits Promised by Alan Eastwood. Alan's done a number of courses and I think got to grips with the visuals really quickly, and he's always around and keen to kind of learn and take from these critiques, but it's one of those guys who I think can really, I'm hoping, benefit from the series in that he's so close to getting over the hump of like group stages and World Cup and making it out of there. So what can we pick up and kind of push forward from there? Because visually, I don't think there's an issue at all. It's going to be how the course plays and strategy and stuff like that. I've played a number of his courses for different contests. Now, I remember this one from National Treasure last year, and this was, I think, meant to be New York or Long Island sort of thing. I can't really remember. But it's a lovely, and taking it out authenticity of location, because that was part of this contest. Like, it's a lovely look, that kind of seaside highlands course, very densely and heavily planted, which is cool and works nicely. So it feels quite naturalized in terms of how the hazards integrate with the surrounding landscape. So you can see the kind of open-faced bunkers and things like that, and how they kind of come back into the course. There's an awful lot of planting for a console designer. Now, one thing that we will note is that the planting won't look exactly the same as it would have done in the last game. You've seen me do the comment on bushes before. These ones obviously haven't been rotated with porting, and I don't blame anyone for that. So it looked probably a little better in the previous game because the planting was as intended, whereas now it currently isn't. That said, I like that we're kind of using the coast as a backdrop rather than going right along it, which is always interesting, because you can create, whilst it seems that coastal holes should be really easy to design, it's kind of difficult to make coastal holes that are particularly unique because you have that big boundary hazard. So let's make our way back up to Clubhouse. Got a couple of cars in the car park, so evidently a little bit of meter left. And off we go. Okay, first hole, a nice big open view, and we have drawn very high winds. Excellent. It's going to make this entertaining. Now, for a longish par 4, and I'm calling this a long par 4 even when it isn't, because if we look at where the wind is pushing us, this is a really difficult drive for me. So, like, we're looking at CC sorts of players. So therefore, I'm looking at laying up. I think that's going to take me to the far end, probably, of the fairway. We have this propped up green, which, now, we've actually, interestingly, just this morning been having a conversation, Alan and I, over Discord about how to do long par 4s and like carry distances and things like that. And this is the sort of thing where when we play it in these wind conditions, and I am downwind, what if I don't hit driver and I don't have that wedge in? Well, suddenly it's quite a tricky shot with a severe runoff. So we're going to see how that plays, because I just don't trust myself to keep driver in the fairway there. And it's to do with how you've cut the fairway, which is really interesting. And that provokes a really good decision off the tee, I would say. I like the first tee shot. It's the what if the player doesn't go for it, and then what are we left with? Actually, it's more manageable than I would have thought, but to a front pin, you're in trouble because of this bunker, because it's very close. And I guess that's part of the punishment, but because of this little mound, that's then funneling us away if we go a touch long, which makes it's going to have to be a shot that just stops immediately. So that's tricky. We've got the big runoff, which is I like. And I'm not saying I dislike this. I think these are things to think about and consider whether this is playing a little too hard for what you want. And obviously the win that I've gotten is very difficult. It's going to make this challenging. There are some helping slopes at the back that are going to funnel a shot that's close enough towards the pin, which I like. Whereas if you go too far, you're going off. So this bit of green design I really like. This bit as well I really like, because I could play safe and play for the middle of the green, which is what we're going to do, and hopefully avoid this runoff. But the more I go at this pin, the more I'm going at this runoff. There we go. The only thing I think I'd maybe tweak on this is like, do we need the fall off here and the fall off here and the fall off here? It's just kind of falling off in all directions, and I think we don't necessarily need to do that. And we're on a downhill slope. Now, the sunlight, you can't really do anything about. Oh, we've missed, right, because of the slow. So now I've got a nasty bunker shot, which again, like I knew where the danger was. That was the one place you really couldn't miss to this pin. Which again is good. Like there are misses, but then there are grades of misses. Like there are places where you can miss and be okay, and places where you definitely can't. And that almost stayed up, but never really deserved to. I think it's a good first hole. There's a few little tweaks I'd make, and that's one where I think playing your course in high winds from all directions is something I'd really advocate, because you just get a better idea of how it reacts when people are forced to hit certain shots, or if they go into bunkers, things like that. Love this second green side. I might have been tempted to tuck it even further around, to be honest. Again, we got this. So if we think about the first green and what we had a runoff back left, we've got the same here. We've got a little bit of a bowl here, which is nice. So it's different character here, but the same sort of thing here. And again, I mean, I'm downwind. I could go for the narrow entrance. I don't think I need to. So if I like that we've got undulation that is not. What I like here is you haven't over bunkered. It would have been very easy to chuck a bunker somewhere up here or down here, and to be honest, that's probably what I would have done. But actually, I want to be over this side for a better look into the pin. I don't want to be too far down. 232 would carry, would lead me a wedge in, definitely. And we might have missed the fairway. Can't get a kick. I think in this game I'd probably like a cut of light rough, like on every course if we can. Here's one where I don't think we need this little runoff. This pin's protected enough, probably. And I guess that's my only real critique of the greens through two holes. Do we need runoffs where we've got them? But now we're going to see an interesting shot in terms of how does this roll up. As you can see, it's all kicking left, and then that's where it rolls off the green. It's not too punitive, but it would have been cool to see that potentially run on, because we've got to think of the what if someone plays a really bad shot. Probably should have just hit driver off the tee, but oh well. I am liking the planting. I think, let's have a look at the grasses. I might have sprinkled in one slightly lighter colour. Would have just lifted the pure greenness, but it's a really solid look. That has translated well into this game as well. Okay. I think this one maybe has a little too much going on. I like the compartmentalisation. It's just, and this spine going through the middle of the whole green is probably just extending out a little bit too much in front of this pin for my liking. And I don't think you're far off at all. I would probably be just softening the middle of the green so that the middle of the green is safe. I like the concept. This pin is just probably a little too tucked for my liking in that little pocket. But this front spine, I can see how that works really nicely, and we're trying to encourage people to hit through this way. Whereas here we've got the big runoff is interesting. You probably don't need this whole slope here. I would probably be losing, probably be flattening out this, probably this little bit as well. Like the big slopes on the outside are great. You just let them do what they need to do. And we're downwind. Really like the planting and layering we've got here. Like it's not overcrowded, and we can what I really like is we can see all of the surfacing really clearly. No bunkers, but it doesn't need it. Like there's no bunkers in play other than a really big miss left. But that's not what this hole needs to do. So far, 3 strong holes. Gone too long. But we've still got a shot up. Maybe I'll hit a green at some point today. Not great as a shot goes. Perhaps a little bit of emptiness up here. Maybe we're fighting meter, but given it's so densely planted down here, like anything, and pretty much everywhere, anything that isn't is going to stand out. So you have to manage like your unplanted spots with real care. Oh, go on, there's a putt. Yeah, I really like this one as well. As a tee shot, we've not cluttered it too much. You might want, the only thing I might do would be to have bunkers. This bunker kind of, you've got the informal, sorry. Maybe have a more formalized one here so that it kind of bleeds out the natural terrain, but still kind of shows you which way you want people to go. Oh, that's not a good swing. We're going to have a very long approach shot. From the wrong side of the fairway, no less. 279. It's a par 5. The green kind of feels like the first one in that it's... Yeah, we've got the back runoff again, so that's similar. The angled green we've had on a number of holes now. We've had it on 1, 2, 4. So every non-par 3 we've gone for this angled turned round green approach. One thing that might be worth considering, particularly with the par 5s, is what could we do differently? Because that's a cool strategy, but if people can't hit that ideal angle for whatever reason off the tee, they're going to constantly feel like they're going over it or they're short-sided or equivalent. So with this one, par 5 greens, one thing I like to do is go, well, what have I not done elsewhere? So, like, can you do a tiny par 5 green? Can you do one that's encircled by bunkers or has loads of hazards around it? Can you do long and skinny? Can you angle it? Can you put it with a hazard just on one side and runoffs on the other? Like, what can you do differently with your green shape and orientation? Because I feel like shape and orientation for greens 1, 2, and 4 have been pretty similar. Whilst they'll play differently, that's the sort of thing that, like, I think makes them really feel unique. Might need to go a little. I thought it was going to carry enough. Yeah, just about. Stay. Thank you. And then when we're propping them up as well, that is always, if it runs off on all sides, that's asking for the aerial approach. Whereas if we sink it down a little bit more, that gives you that greater variety. I wonder whether we can just pop something into that slope and run it on back. That would be fun. Like that. That's pretty good. And if we'd have chucked it up even further, we'd have got... So that works quite nicely. Yeah, I just think, particularly if you've ended up on the right side of the fairway, you've got no real way to this back pin, so you're always playing for actually go long and chip back up. It's whether we can allow that option a little bit more. And then the question comes in, if you're sinking it down, do you need both bunkers? Could you just do a ridge line that maybe runs you into this bunker and make that bunker play quite big? So imagine if you had a diagonal ridge line like about here. Anything to the right of that's going to feed round and roll into the bunker. You can then make the bunker smaller, and it gives that illusion of much more space than there is, which is always quite cool as well. Don't do this. I underhit that as well. I'd be interested as to whether that's a putt that you wanted to go off the green as well. I think that's common with loads of ports, so I'm not going to belabor that point. That's just this is how the game plays in this version. Okay. This central hazard feels a bit overplanted in that I can't really see the bunker texture, and that's partly because that little cluster of trees is blocking this front one, and partly because we got so much in the sand. We're now going long par 4, and we've done the thing where we put a bunker in front. I want to say this is maybe road hole inspired. Could be. Very much could be. And long par 4 into the wind, which is exactly what we were just talking about, so this will be interesting how this one plays. So we're going to go down this side because I think that will give me a way around that bunker. And with the wind, I can always bring it in a bit more from this side. And it's very uphill as well. This is a long approach because I've got the longest driver as well, pretty close to. We're looking at our green contouring as well. We've gone kind of front to back on this portion, so that's pretty punitive. I think we're probably just doing a bit too much to protect par on this one. Because it's long, that's one defence already. It's uphill, that's one defence. Got the bunker in front that's reduced, like basically meaning there's no ground game approach, really, because this is a bit of a runoff, so that's 3 things. We've got the green running towards the back, which is 4. And we've got no real room for error long, which is a 5th. Like, I think we need some sort of acceptance of when this isn't into the wind. or when this isn't in favourable conditions, how are we helping the golfer get it a little bit closer? I can see the helping slopes on the green. I think we just need a little bit more. Because that's another green we've missed, which is it's going to be a long playthrough. Not because I've got negative things to say about the course, I'm just taking way more shots. Six, Diddy par 3. I'm starting to feel that some of this stuff is overplanted. I think I would like to see the sand texture a bit more than I currently am. Just, you can probably extend this way more as well. If you brought this bunker all the way back to here, you've probably got the right amount of planting, just too small a bunker. Because when you go back to the tee, we can't really tell that that's bunker much. And that'd be something I'd be wanting to show off, because actually I like the planting you're doing. It's just all a bit squished. This is a tough little shot. Short par 3, and you just need to have the right shot, which I probably won't. So I'm right between clubs. This is fun though, and it pairs really nicely with the previous hole. I'll take that. That was a good shot. And yeah, I mean, for other greens, I would say this is like the Spectacles green shape is maybe a bit contrived, but you've got that front hazard. It's not like we're requiring ground game on the short hole this short, so this works. I'm gonna miss again. How fast are these greens? 141. That's so slowed down probably a bit from last game as well. So this one, I like that I can see the bunkers off the tee more. That gives a bit of visual. We can't see this one so much, but that was always going to be tricky. You'll be wanting to lower this land more, bump up the back of it, and it can be tough. We've got another one of those angle greens. Right? It is kind of punch bowly, but if you look at the pin we've got, like I get the angle play. It's just difficult to achieve this angle. For this distance into this wind, I'm never going to achieve the angle with a decent shot in. Additionally, I probably would have made all of this fairway. You don't really want to shake this down so much that people are backing out, because they're screwing themselves over a bit with the angle they leave. And also, like, I think that's a really cool looking approach shot. I love the way the bunkers bleed out of that side, and you've got the pin tucked behind it, the fairway swinging around. That's an awesome look. Let's kind of play into that a bit more. And when you get stuff like this, just like go with whatever it is that you get. We're going to play throughwood because that's the play. I'm just interested as to how long of an approach I have. 240, 232. I'm not saying it's not receptive. Oh, and we got out of bounds long. Okay. And I kind of want to over club, but I don't want to go too long, because I don't think that's getting all the way there. Partial 3-wood. That might need to sit. Oh no, it's okay. That's a really fun shot to play. As is though, I just think I really enjoy that as a shot, but we've just had a really long par 4, and then this one's playing longer than it looks because of where we've cut the fairway and things like that. So it's just that balance of how does it play into wind. That's really the only thing I've got, other than some comments on the greens so far. And that green orientation, like the constantly angling the green away from the player, is going to get a bit repetitive is partly the word, but also just let's say you're like again, so we can't hit out for the angle, so we have to play over here, so we're not getting the angle. And just allow people to get that angle a little bit easier. Oh, that is a me swing. Still, we've got a long approach again. It's fun. We made the angle, we just didn't really get anything else with it. Green sight's really good. I like that. Well, we're allowing a bit more of an approach to run on from this side, but once it does run on, it's just going to keep going, which will be great for down here. But I suspect if we go right here, we're going all the way. Like we're sort of doing a two-shot Redan, which I'm not against. Even with my awful miss hit, we've still got a very manageable approach. This will be interesting as to what, like, we're way down front right, potentially off the green, I would say. It slows up more than I thought. So if that's the case, and we're downwind, we want to be thinking about how we're allowing people to get it close and really play testing that shot. I think we're looking good to great on this course. That's the main thing. It's like the what if someone can't. And when you strip it back, like that's what all good architects that I've ever read of, they're always talking, like Mackenzie would talk about this, or Colt, or whomever. Coram Crenshaw are great for it. Like your alternate routes of play are often how is the shorter hitter going to navigate the hole really easily and make a bogey, basically, or in our case, make par easily. Another swooping fairway. I think at this point we've done a lot of wide fairway and pick your side. Like I think we could be challenging driver a little bit more. Oh, that's terrible. He says hooking it into the rubbish. Let's hack our way out. No idea where my backswing was. So. This hole's probably my least favourite so far. It's occupying a lot of space, but I don't think it's doing anything that any of the others haven't done better. I think this fall off to the right is kind of fighting the land a little. This one, not so much. This one makes sense. But we're again taking the ground option kind of outplay on the par 5, which we've done before. Yeah, just hack it up somewhere close. And if you make the tee shot kind of an having missed the fairway miles right, if you make it a bit of an automatic tee shot, you're removing one kind of memorable shot from the potential of the hole and what it could be. And as is, I can't really remember the par 5 tee shot on the other hole. I remember the green because we angled it, but then that's kind of all of the greens. This one's interesting because we've gone back-to-back 5s. So this tee shot I'll remember because I can't see where the hole is going. I'm trying to cling this side. I worry I'm going to run out of room. The green's propped up again. So could we be doing something a little bit different? This is another good example of a if you can't, then what? Because I think everyone is blowing this drive through the fairway. I'm not sure you've allowed enough space on that side. But it is quite a short par 5. Just wonder whether we could have been putting the screen lower down and further back here. I know that would be angling it, or probably keep this bunker, lower it down, push it back here, make it more of a circle. That way you're still having this bunker coming in, but a running shot would work. I think we just need to do something a little bit different with the green sides and their orientation. That's all on me. We've lost tempo officially. Blinding sunlight, not much you can do about that really. Kind of wish standard lighting looked much, much better. Not your fault. And we're getting teasers of the ocean now, which is nice. I haven't felt like I've missed it at all. It's still been a cool G&T environment. What a boring scorecard. Okay, 11. I really like this. This bunker complex here is great. And the green sat up here is awesome. I dislike the sub 300 drivable par 4. I know it means everyone can get it. I just think that, oh look, you're hitting driver over it is a little bit gimmicky. I've done it once before and not really again. And yeah, especially as in this one, I'm just going to hit 3-wood. There's a place for it, don't get me wrong. I just think I'm seeing it a lot. Okay, see where the wind pushes. Oh no, we're not far enough left. Whee! Interesting. One thing I think we could do a little more is the micro contouring. So the sharper circle brushes, so like the third one on the first page, or the really sharp one. Just like try moving the land a little bit around a little bit more. If you look at some flyovers abandon, for example, you'll see the detail on their contours. And we've got the big ones, but like the little ones, I think you can add even more character to. Like you've got a tiny bit here, like you can see how there's that tiny micro contour, but then this stuff's all one big slope. I think that would add a bit more visually as well. Well, we're in a bad spot. Got very lucky. Rewarded with hopefully a straight part, which we've missed. Beautiful. Green itself. I don't mind it. I don't love the kind of sloping harder way, but I get it. Personally feel like you could do more if you have it sloping this way, which would make sense with the slope. And then you've got pins where this one is, where if you go past it, you've then got your downhill shot, and that's kind of part of the defense. Because this is kind of based on the well, it's got a little bit of Streamsong Black second, which you can find bits on. A large part of that is that narrow green, the further you drive it to the right, and then it also flows towards. And this is a little one, but these trees and the space up the top like stand out as like, why have we not planted this, or if we have, why are there trees at the top and not there? Just looks a bit odd. Reverse Redan this time, of sorts, which is kind of similar to the last one. Yeah. This path 3 not doing as much for me, but then I think we've seen a lot of Redans and they have to do something extremely special to do much for you. Say that as someone who's just designed a Redan and there's only so much you can do with it. I think unless it's the perfect spot for one, don't try not to force it. There's other things we can do with the path 3s, and visually that one felt a bit similar to the first path 3 we had, which I want to say is the third. Okay, now playing towards the random cow farm. We've done the angled green protected thing again. Short path for shortish, but up 60 feet. Okay, so this bunker's choking off, but if you don't, then you're left with a really long approach to a green that's quite hard and angled, and over this bunker. Again, I think we're defending a little too much that defensive play off the tee, which pushes you into hitting the longer tee shot, which is actually quite trivial. Like, there's no, if we look at fairway width, like, other than laying back here, this is an easier tee shot to going at this side of it. And if I laid back there, then I've got 239 yards in, which is probably not happening. Ooh. Two things. One, that sculpting is a little bit abrupt in that how it's fallen down. I'm all for having the elevator green. I just think it's a bit extreme as to how sharply it goes down. Second one is I'd have lost the trees that put it in shadow, because then that's why you're not seeing that the sculpting is that severe. Yeah, that's the only thing. Well, this is a nasty chip. Let's try and bump something into the side. Those are always fun. A little higher than anticipated, okay. Keep turning. Oop. This is meant to be a difficult course. I know I'm playing very badly, but... And we pushed another putt. Okay, 14. I'm assuming we're working our way down to the coast now. So now this is significantly downhill tee shot. Angle green, narrow side. Protected by a bunker on the inside. par 5. At least on the plus side, this is in a little bit of a bowl rather than propped up. We like that. But it is flowing front to back, which does further limit any kind of chance of getting close to this pit, really. And maybe not. Maybe if we have the perfect aerial approach. Not this time. Stupid wind. I love the green side. And although I might criticise this hole, it's not this hole I'm really criticising. It's the fact that the par 5s have all done, or rather, a number of the holes have done this similar angled green. Can't really reach the angle, bunker on the inside, which defends it. Whereas this one on its own, I love this green side. This like naturalised bunker and like dune complex is really cool, and it's a slightly smaller green, so that is a little bit different. There's a lot of positive stuff on this one. There's a shot. Okay, we'll get one of them back, hopefully. Colour palette could just use a little something. It's very green. And it looks so much better when the bunkers do come in. These brushes, or like the finger or lip in the middle, looks a bit odd. Same with these, like... Oh no, I think you probably need to splatter a few more bits of bunker around them. Right. So, we've just played a par 5 to a green, tucked behind a bunker, in a little dell with a little bit of a punch bowl. We want to consider the hole we've just played, what this green is asking for, and particularly go through like a 3-hole stretch, or like what's the next hole doing, and then look at your par 5s as a group, because we're basically repeating the same idea in terms of the green. The tee shot is a little bit different. We're going slightly hogsbacky, but again, we can't reach that angle that we need. So we'll hit somewhere up here. Anyway, let's see what we can do with this. Now, at least the fall away front to back does help this one, but we're doing it on a long par 4, which I'd always be wary of. And if you are doing it on a long par 4, you've got to allow a load of room to land the ball short, unobstructed, and get it. If there's a pin here, we've got problems, because there's no way of landing that and stopping it running away. So I think, again, it's that similar to that first par 5. It's like, how many ways are you protecting the hole? Probably not this. It's probably not this. Somewhere in the middle. We'll go with very gentle 5 wood. Go on, kick in. Nope. Yeah, that I didn't even notice there was a bunker there, because it's really densely. I think some of the bunkers, the more exposed ones, look great. Just occasionally a bit overdone. Right, we've got no shot again. Let's go our lob wedge chip, and hopefully it runs on and all the way off the other side. Just feel like I'm getting punished a lot for shots that aren't that bad. They're like, it's how we allow for the slight misses. Like, I'm not playing well, but the severity of some of the angles and things make it really difficult. This one, yeah, I think we've protected this pin bit too much as well. Obviously, it's the exception, and we're in these wins, but we've also just gone from a green that was front to back, and we've gone to another one that's front to back. So you're kind of asking the same question twice again. So that would be another thing I'd be looking at. It's just lob it up in hope, isn't it? And because it's so extremely above, if I'm not hitting that tiny target, I'm kind of dead wherever I am. Maybe it could have hit the centre of the green, but even then I'd be funneled down to here, and you've got no putt. I'd always try and look at where's your miss. And sometimes on a short par 3, there may not be one. It's kind of more a cumulative thing if I felt like I haven't really had a miss on a number of holes. And therefore, I don't think there's any way of me getting that close. It just starts to feel a little bit penal in terms of you have it's this shot or else, which I don't think is how you designed it. I think you designed it with the options in mind. They're just so severe that that's what's causing the issues. Okay, we have a not drivable par 4, but a short par 4. I like that we're making our way down to the coast. Kind of got a front, like it's not a front to back green, but it's going to play like it if we play out this way, so it's similar with that big slope. I do like the little mound in here, but I'm interested to know where you put our 4 pins. I'm going to assume that there's one here, probably one here. I don't think you can put one up here, which is a shame because there's some cool sloping there if we just flattened a little bit out. Fairway up here chokes a lot. And again, we're asking for an angle we're never going to reach because even though this green looks like it should be open from this side, unless you hit that perfect drive down there, which is tough because we've got the angled fairway and we've got bunkers both sides and the wind, which it obviously is affecting lots of this round. We've got a very difficult wind direction and speed. It was all on default, but consequently we're not getting that angle again and it all just feels a little bit more difficult. It's a good look though. I love the bunker cluster on the right. I'd like to be able to see a bit more of the ones near the green, like dropping this a touch or raising up here, however you do it. Big left to right slope, and then the very fast comes in just for fun. Thinking it was going so well. Hopefully, if we just make it onto the green, that slope should actually help us, which is nice. The rare breather. And now we reach the ocean for the final hole, which is cool. Hey. Okay, so we veer away from the ocean. This is an odd choice of finishing hole. We've gone completely bunkerless. You've got the ocean right here and a clubhouse. You've even got a great green site which you've used for your putting green, which is odd. I feel like we've tried so hard not to do the cliche thing we've looked a gift horse in the mouth here. The green itself is another one of those angles when, well, we might get to it, but even if I get to it, I've got like it's the shot or else. It does. Oh, couldn't have generated the angle any better. And even though we still haven't really got it, and I think that's part of it, because if I'm right, I'm way right. Just tone down the severity of the angles a little. Right, let's chuck something up and hope. So I've got no distance control into the wind. Nope. Obviously a little bit of a push, but I got the amount wrong anyway. That's deserved. Got a little cute with it. There we go. Okay. So let's just wrap this one up and discuss a little bit. I think that was a really interesting one to play the whole 18 because I think through 5 holes I was finding it hard to pick. Not hard, but like there wasn't much leaping out as to like the good to great thing. It's more a cumulative thing with this course. And what I think you'll have noticed with that is the amount of times we kind of did the same thing and how wind really exaggerates a lot of the decisions that you took in terms of angling greens and severity of greens and where you've put hazards, etc. You really start to notice that when you're playing in different winds because either you have to land the ball short because you're downwind, and if we're preventing a golfer from accessing the front of the green, that gets tricky, or if we're downwind, something can get much longer, which accentuates the severity of the angles you put on your greens. So I think there's 2 real big things I would have. One was the repeated ideas of like, let's say those punch bowl sort of holes. So we had 14, 15 were very, very similar. The second one's that angling of greens. And like, yes, I know it's there to accentuate strategy and make that strategy work. But there are other ways to do strategy and other defining features you can have of your holes. Like, it's fine to do an angled green every once in a while to make those angles work. But if we do it on every single hole, it starts feeling really punitive because if you can't get that angle, say for example in wind, it starts playing really bloody difficult, and that obviously became evident. And any little issue with my swing, obviously there were some major issues with my swing, but they're really hard. They're really heavily punished with that. As ever, I'll go through and like, what are the holes that I really remember? I thought one was great as a big look over the course. Two, I remember, was the short four, kind of weaving its way between. Three, I liked. I want to say that's the long three. I thought the par threes on the front nine were significantly better than ones on the back. Those were stronger. 5, 7, and 8 are a bit of a blur. 9, I don't. Oh no, 9 was the weakest, I think, on the front nine. It was that par 5 where we'd done the propped up green. That would be another thing I'd consider as to whether your greens were at grade, how they accept those running shots versus bumping you off. I think that's your main thing. It's like, what if someone doesn't hit tempo? How are they still playing the hole and have a shot to make a birdie? Because defending par hard in this game will make it really pretty defensive. 10, I thought had loads of potential on the tee shot, just the green side was very similar to some previous ones. 12 was your Redan that I didn't love, but then I don't love many Redans. 14 was the cool punch bowl green sights. I just hit that centerline bunker off the tee. I think 14 would have been really good had we done something different on 15 green and others. And then 18 is just a curious decision for me. I think we've tried so hard not to do the standard coastal thing, but you teased the coast quite nicely before. I'd have probably used it a bit more. And I understand why you don't want to, because it's seen as a crutch, etc. But my golden example would be Strathlawn from my catalogue. There's no way I wasn't putting 18 right on the coast. And if you look at Core and Crenshaw and what they're doing in Tariti, or Tearai, even look at where they're putting their coastal stretch, like, if you've got that land, you've got to use it. And it's not necessarily a negative thing, because you've done enough of the inland holes, like the big view over the ocean on 18, driving, like, can't go right or anything like that. That would have been a great way to close the round. Like, it would have given something different as well. So I think those are most of my thoughts. I mean, it is really 100% with yours. It's about the playability and being overly defensive. It's nothing to do with the planting. It's nothing really to do with the sculpting. I can nitpick bits. It's all the decisions. And once you nail those, you'll be right up there. Hopefully that helps. And I really enjoyed it. It was a battle, but I really enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and see you again soon.